over 1,000 days, the sun's enormous power has ravaged the Earth's atmosphere. The unrelenting heat has scorched the Earth's surface, causing cataclysmic storms and calamities such as the world has never seen. Violence, chaos, torment. Now the sun, the mother of all life, begins the final event by threatening to cast a colossal megaflare that will destroy all of the Earth's creatures. The cremation of the planet is at hand. In deep space, 500,000 kilometers from Earth, on an asteroid called New Trinity, man has created an antimatter bomb. It will be the greatest explosive force in the history of mankind.
This is the emergency podcast system. This is not a test. Movies are bombing all over the country. They are posing as movies you already know. They may already be in your theaters, your neighbor's home, or even your own. Do not panic. Specialists have been dispatched. They will help you identify these pretenders and defend you against this invasion of the remake. Please stand by for further instructions.
Welcome to the Invasion of the Remake podcast. Today, we are going to be celebrating a hero in film. One akin to a famous personality from ancient times. One hailed in the same voice when people say, "I am Spartacus." I am your host, Alan Smithee. And with me today is Alan Smithee. And joining us back in the room today is Alan Smithee.
Yep.
And in one voice, we say,
I am Alan Smithee.
Yes, we are going to dispel the lies of all of these other directors who have claimed that they have disowned their work and called themselves Alan Smithee, but they are doing it in honor of this hero of film. Yes, I mean, I'm so touched to be doing this episode this week. I know last week we gave you the hint for this week that we were going to do some sort of adventure movie or whatever. That's going to be next week.
Mm-hmm.
So if you made a guess last week, you could still be right. Now you just got to wait a little longer.
Well, much like the director you thought you were getting, This is Alan Smithee.
This is Alan Smithee. We're going to be looking at his retrospective throughout his vast career. Actor, writer, director, producer, editor, cinematographer, occasionally assistant director. He's done it all. Musician. He's written comic books. The man just keeps on pumping out material.
He's the Leonardo da Vinci of entertainment.
Well,
where he did everything. I'm just saying, he was a Renaissance man.
Yes, but yeah, Da Vinci and Alan in the same breath might be a little bit of a stretch.
Well, I meant that Da Vinci did a lot of different things.
Yes.
Da Vinci did do a lot of different things, and so did Alan Smithee. So we went off to our separate corners this week, watched Alan Smithee movies in some way, shape, or form. We're going to report back to you about Alan Smithee, and we're going to dispel the lies and only tell truths on this podcast, just like Fox News.
Just like Fox News.
Oh, no.
Is the joke going too far?
I'm not blonde enough for that. A blonde white woman, that's all Fox News is, and that's not me.
No.
Except for the white woman part.
This is going to be the April Fool's joke that goes on way too long. Prepare yourselves, everybody. We've got Alan Smithee all episode long. May long he reign in film.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yes.
2023, there is still stuff with his
Yes.
Still
attached to it.
making stuff.
Yes.
Still making movies. And we thought he'd gone away after the movie about him.
Mm-hmm.
The biopic.
Yes.
Which we thought it was the nail in the coffin of his illustrious career.
Well, what's funny about that is many, many years ago, I remember watching this film. I rented it, and that was my introduction to the Alan Smithee oeuvre.
So you're talking about the actual Alan Smithee movie. Which
Yeah,
was
Burn, Hollywood, Burn.
Burn, Hollywood, Burn. Did you watch that one?
I watched it many years ago. It was quite an entertaining little piece from what I remember. And, honestly, it dispelled a lot of rumors. I mean, the guy...
He's a character in the movie about a fictional version of the man directed by Alan Smithee. I mean, my God, the layers of...
It was meta before meta was meta.
Right? Like, it was trippy just reading the credits.
Yeah, it might be ego.
Might be ego.
Might be ego.
Might be.
Well,
I mean, when you have that level of talent, you're allowed to have that much ego, though.
Yeah.
True. But it's on the level of being John Malkovich. It's that intrinsically intertwined, but also yourself.
Right, yeah. The man was born just after World War II. He saw some stuff. He saw the world change and film evolve from black and white to color and wanting to be a part of that. And he has added so much.
Absolutely.
So much. I watched 5 films this week. Would you watch, Sam?
I got 4 in.
You got 4?
I got 4.
4. Wow. Once again, my life went to hell this week with a lot of late nights at work, and I still got 5 in. I'm proud of myself.
You should be.
I tried to watch the best of his filmography, but there is some, let's face it, there are some duds.
There are. And I mean, to be honest, I did have 5 on my list, but there was one I don't think the release has really come out yet, but I was very interested in it.
Right.
Which I will get to in my list.
Someday.
Right.
Okay, well, we're going to do this 31 Days of Horror style and kind of tell you about the movies we watched and whatnot. But, this is a career that started around 1969, although he's kind of like Sasquatch. Sometimes there's sightings even beforehand. I saw something as early as 55, so it depends on what you're reading and where and what that involvement is.
And I do kind of have a theory about that. Alan Smithee has, and there's some stuff in the dark web that I sort of found where, he's probably trying to hide from some very dangerous people. So that's why the misinformation.
That would explain why there have been really no sightings of him out in the wilds. As far as celebrity directors go, like, you can't even find a photograph of the man.
No, you can't.
I mean, you can find a photograph of Eric Idle playing the man.
Yes.
I mean, there's a possibility, small, that it actually is Eric Idle, but I don't think so.
It's Python-esque, and I think that was why Alan himself had probably chosen Eric Idle.
Maybe. Big fan. Big fan.
Yeah, me too. Yep.
I've got him on my list mostly as a director, one as a writer. I think Sam's got a producer one.
Yes, I do.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And I almost watched that movie as well.
You should have.
I still have not seen that.
Oh, for shame. It is so quotable. I like to kill the kid with the gum.
Oh, okay. Wait, I can't hear to wait about that.
My favorite line, and you've all heard this one. Did you hang up? No, I just said click.
That sounds familiar. I do believe I ran the trailer at the last cult movie trailer a go-go. That was Student Body.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that it isn't, no, you hang up.
There's a line about talking through a rubber chicken, too, which is funny.
Nice.
Well, since we're starting there, let's start with Student Bodies.
It's comedic genius. It may not be the very first horror parody film, but it certainly is definitely one of the first. And the first half of it is like genius. The second half kind of falls a little bit flat, and I think that might be why Smithee was the producer on it, because that's what he wanted to make sure that it was as good as possible, but it just still misses the mark a little bit.
Right.
Huge cast of nobody you've seen in anything else since.
Oh.
But yeah, there's some great visual jokes. There's some great one-liners. It's from 1980, so it's a definitely right in the middle of his heyday.
Yeah. There was a point in his career where he was credited, and I know he still has nightmares about Twilight Zone. He was the segment producer, or the segment's first AD. Actually, I think he was even second assistant director. I mean, what was he even doing there? But yeah, he was there for the Vic Morrow segment, which was a tragedy. So I know that probably kept him from ever doing any kind of interview.
Yeah, I mean, you could easily say that definitely haunted him.
Yeah, that was a dark point in his career, a low point, and I heard he took up some drinking.
Yeah, some drinking, some drugs, but I mean, when you're dealing with that.
Yeah, and I mean, it was the mid-'80s. That was Coca-Cola, right? The festival.
Well, I heard, how Maximum Overdrive happened. We know Stephen King was coked out of his mind. What we don't know was the party he had with Alan Smithee.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you can see some similarities in the style. So, you know what? Maybe Alan mentored Stephen.
Maybe.
I could see that.
Yeah, I think there's something there, actually. He's like, you know what you need? Trucks.
And cocaine.
Trucks of cocaine.
Trucks of cocaine trying to kill people. Well, who's driving the truck? Nobody. That's the thing. That's the hook.
It's a goblin.
Yeah. The Green Goblin is a truck. Whoa.
And it's all started by a comet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally makes sense on cocaine.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Dark times. Dark times for Alan.
It is. But you know what? He persevered. He's still doing stuff.
Absolutely. So, Sam, you started with Student Bodies?
I started with Student Bodies. Then I moved on to Hellraiser 4, Bloodline.
Ooh, and I did do that during a 31 Days of Horror, so I'm familiar.
That's my number 3.
Okay, good. So you have all the notes that I didn't take.
Well, not really. I mean, I've seen the movie before.
Yeah, as have I. It's been a long time. We saw this in the theater together, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. Kevin Yeager is the one who actually tried to take credit for this, but no. He's like, no, you know what? They've changed it. They've added it. I don't want it. I disown it. But he was just trying to steal a movie from
Alan.
Just stick to special effects. It's what you're good at, man.
And he wasn't in this movie.
Some of it was all right.
Some of it was all right. Sorry, but the chatter dog looked bad.
You can see, well, yeah, these Hellraiser movies don't have huge budgets, although these were some of the higher budget ones.
Yeah.
I think this was like $2 or $3 million. I mean, the last one they did before the remake one, or the reboot, the Hulu one, was $300,000. So
yeah.
This is pretty big budget in comparison.
Yeah.
And this weird anthology film too. Like, I would have rather have spent more time in the past in that movie when we're talking about the Le Marchand and
the Bloodline,
the origin of the box.
Yeah, and I think that was always the intent, but producers wanted to get to Pinhead faster.
Yeah.
But and the gore faster,
but Alan's like, you know what? I can give you that.
Yeah. See, Alan was kind of a yes man, I think, but he doesn't have enough credit as possibly somebody who is looking at things other people want to know about, i.e. the origin of the box. He knew people wanted to know, but unfortunately it's producer interference.
Yeah, he knows that he knew people would want to know, but he also knows that they're there for Pinhead. And
the Cenobites. And I do have to say that the twins were amazing.
Yeah, and I do remember they come back in one of the direct-to-video ones. They use them again.
Yeah, no, they were spectacular.
But, budgets.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one starred Bruce Ramsey, Valentina Vargas, who's gorgeous, but I think she was VO'd the whole time. Doug Bradley, of course, Charlotte Shatton, and Adam Scott.
Yes.
Was he the kid?
Yes.
Okay.
No, Adam Scott was like a youngish man.
Yeah,
I honestly never... I
recognized him right away.
I was looking for him the whole time, and I never picked him up.
He was the assistant to the guy who commissioned the box.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, but he was pretty hard to recognize. He was really young, and they had the bad wig. And
yeah. Adam Scott is one of those actors without the right hair. You don't see him.
Yeah. He actually tried to audition for the next one and hoped everybody wouldn't remember him. And he almost got away with it.
Nice. Guy's a chameleon.
Yeah, well, you have a little bump in your career and, you need some work, and Hellraiser works, right? That's work and gets you working again. And if you hit a slump, go do Hellraiser.
Yeah, if you hit a slump, you take anything that you're offered.
Yeah.
Dog food commercials, which Alan Smithee did direct. I don't know if he did or not, I'm guessing.
I'm sure he did commercial work. He did music videos. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there's commercial work, but that's a lot harder to track down.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Well, he's just a man who loved to work.
Yeah. So it was after Hellraiser. Bloodline. I mean, it's tough to beat Pinhead in space, right?
It is tough to beat Pinhead in space, and I really didn't after this. My next one was a movie called A River Made to Drown In. Great title.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not his best work. Had Richard Chamberlain in it, though.
Oh, wow.
And it also had some other recognizable young actors. Michael
Imperioli?
Yes, he was the actual lead, the lead in it.
Yes.
And there's another actor whose name now escapes me, but you've seen him in a ton of stuff. Doom Generation, he was in.
Oh, I know who you mean.
Yeah. Yeah, and I can't remember his name and I didn't write it down. But they're kind of the three central characters of it. And it's about this man who's dying of AIDS, and he comes home to reach closure with his lovers, played by Michael and this other young actor. And he gets Michael's character to try and find his last young lover who didn't want to see him, and he's turned into this sort of street urchin hustler kid who's always getting into trouble. And it's this really interesting story of redemption and it's a story of redemption, but it's just looks like a TV movie, unfortunately, for a lot of it. And there's some really, it gets better, but the opening camera work, I'm like, oh no, what did you do, Alan? I mean, he wasn't the DOP, but I'm sure he should have spotted some of this horrible handheld stuff. I'm like, what are you doing? But on the whole, I mean, the story was really good.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, this is one that I actually think that we could consider even doing as a full episode.
Excellent.
Because the story is definitely there.
It sounds strong.
There's one he directed. I wish I would have got a chance to watch it. I just didn't have time. Has another amazing title, Bloodsucking Pharaohs in Pittsburgh.
I wanted to watch that so bad.
I was trying to
I
find
had
it.
it bookmarked. It's on YouTube. You can find it on YouTube.
Yeah, no, if I hadn't gotten such a late start last night, that was going to be my second movie, actually.
Yeah, no, I was hoping to get a sixth in so I could watch that one, but another day, unfortunately. But now I've shared the title with you, so maybe you could just go find it, watch it yourself, because how could you resist a title like that?
You can't.
You can't.
No.
But yeah, it was like I said, the story was there. Chamberlain was excellent as usual, and you can see the raw talent of the other two young actors in it. But yeah, it definitely didn't have the budget that he had for some of his other work. Let's put it that way.
Right.
Yeah, so I will blame a lot of it probably on budget. Number 4 was Morgan Stewart's Coming Home with John Cryer, Vanessa Redgrave, Paul Gleason. Mm-hmm. Yeah, had a great cast. It was an early role for John Cryer, like one of his first. And, it's a shame that he had that career slump because he is so much fun as a leading actor. Like, he carried this film on his shoulders and it showed the talent that he really has. I mean, he was acting against Vanessa Redgrave.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you can just see where the raw talent came from. And the story is one of those teen coming of age stories, and with a twist with the villainous assistant to the senator.
Yeah.
Right. The story itself was nothing special, but the performances and the chemistry between John Cryer and the love interest, air quotes, I tried to do it, but it didn't even do that halfway. But yeah, it was really good. They had really excellent chemistry. But yeah, just one of those movies that kind of slid under the radar.
Also recommend, if you like John Cryer, Hiding Out.
You know what? I was watching that. I'm going, we need to remake Hiding Out.
Exactly.
That's 2 recommendations in one episode.
I love that movie. Yeah. It's so dumb, but I love it.
Keep it in your head so I can add it to my list. Otherwise, nothing's going to happen.
Just jot it down while you're editing.
Like I'm going to do that.
Like you're going to do that. I know. With editing, it's like, okay, I heard that. On to the next thing.
I'm not going to stop when I'm editing. I barely stopped to pee.
That was my 4.
That was your 4. Well, okay, so that was Student Bodies, Hellraiser 4, Bloodline.
A River Made to Drown In.
A River Made to Drown In. Great title.
And Morgan Stewart's Coming Home.
Morgan Stewart's Coming Home.
Centuries ago, a toy maker set out to build the perfect puzzle box. A gift that would bring enchantment to all who possessed it. He never dreamed that this simple toy was the key to the gates of hell.
Oh my God.
Do I look like someone who cares what God thinks?
Now, centuries later, a scientist has unlocked its secret. And the battle for the future of mankind is about to be fought across the boundaries of time. Welcome to Oblivion, Hellraiser, Bloodline.
All right. Well, I'm interested to hear Trish's for, based on the text you had an aborted start, not quite understanding the assignment.
Well, I did, because there was one I was watching which was credited to Alan, but turned out when I was IMDbing, it didn't really show Alan. So I was kind of worried that was my mistake.
I can see where some of that might happen, because Alan sometimes came in on legitimately another director's film, and would re-edit a film for in-flight for airlines or for television. So if you watch the extended cut of Dune, the 80s one, from the TV cut, it's credited to Alan.
Oh.
Because he made it his own.
He's an editor too.
Yep.
And
sometimes he stepped in to finish films from other directors.
Yeah, I've got a few like that. There was the one on my list where the original director was fired, mainly by the main actor, and then a new director was brought on, and the one director said, well, the first director did more, and the second director didn't want to take credit, and they both didn't get credit because Alan was there and did most of the work.
Alan does a lot of heavy lifting. Let's just be honest here.
But it was one of his first films, too. It was technically his second, but it came out first.
But that happens.
I'll tell you later.
Yes, I know which one you're talking about, because I read the synopsis of both of those. I actually want to see both those movies, actually.
Yeah, I actually wanted to go watch that Burt Reynolds one.
Yeah.
But I didn't get around to it, because there's so much good stuff to watch on Alan.
Right?
We might have to do a part 2.
I think we might.
We might.
Okay, so starting off with my Alan vacation, my Alan entry, I started off with Appointment with Fear from 1985, starring Michelle Little. She's done a few things, but she was kind of recognizable. It is a story of a girl who kind of seems obsessed with sound and capturing sound. Her sister has there was a terrible accident with their younger brother where he was deceased. And this other woman, she comes across her after she's on her death's door. She's basically been murdered by her ex and takes the baby because the father of the baby, wants to murder it. Well, you kind of go a little bit forward in it. The father of the baby's in a coma. There's no way he could have been out murdering people, but he says he must murder the baby so he can become the king of the forest for another year. It kind of defies any sort of category on all of it.
Sorry, you said king of the forest?
Yes, I did.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure I didn't mishear that.
No, you didn't. I heard it too.
No, you did not.
Okay.
You did not. King of the Forest for another year. At a certain point, they've decided to have a party because they're all leaving high school at a huge mansion somewhere in the middle of California. Just a few of them. There is a boy who's very interested in the lead lady. He's very odd, rides around on a motorbike with a dummy in the passenger carriage. There's also the cop who's throughout the movie, he's trying to capture this guy because he's killed many people before. He's a serial killer because, he's going to be king of the forest. The man is insane. So this cop is trying to help, trying to find the baby, trying to save everybody.
Okay.
Alan did a lot with this because, honestly, the genre mix-up was hard.
Yeah.
It's part teen movie, part drama, part movie about mental illness, part movie about a cop with a supernatural killer, part...
Sounds like Alan had a lot of ideas.
He did.
And I don't have a full movie for any of them, so let's just put them into one.
Yeah, they're not going to give me the movie for all of them, so let's do one big one.
Yeah.
No, they're not. But yeah, what this guy does is while he's in a coma, he can put himself out into the world in physical form, i.e. through trees. There is a tree on this mansion property, which is how he becomes to be out there. And that is how he can murder people and do his evil deeds.
Wow. This thing sounds wild.
It is wild. The guy with the motorbike and the dummy, the oddest character you've ever met.
I am really wishing I had watched this now.
Me too, actually.
It is a bend of everything that's the weirdest mix, but I mean, I think if you're in the right mindset, you will get it, but if you're not, you won't.
Totally fair.
I went in on the deep end in this journey.
So that
super deep end.
That was your start. All right.
That was my start. And so I felt after that, I'm like, I'm going to lift it up a bit, try to get a little lighter, because that one was pretty dark. A lot of stuff happened. Things were going crazy. I went with Stitches from 1985.
Which sounds like a horror movie title.
But no.
No, and I'm pretty sure I've seen this one.
Yeah, it's a comedy. Takes place as a medical school, starring Parker Stevenson and Jeffrey Lewis. And Buddy Ebsen plays the dean.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have seen this. Yeah, I remember now, yeah.
The premise for the movie is Parker Stevenson and his crew, they're doing pranks all over the medical school all the time. I mean, it opens up with them being in the cadaver lab where all the students are and sitting up when the new students are there.
I may have seen this too.
Yeah. And then running naked around campus and as the credits roll.
Yeah, that sounds very familiar.
Yes. An old flame comes in after a while that he thought was gone. Basically, the dean wants to make sure that everything is smoothly running at the college. It's your usual dean. The dean is like, our reputation is everything. We have to get a hold of these guys. There's a suck-up who's trying to help, as there always is in these movies. He stuck to formulas with this one very closely. I think that's because after Appointment with Fear, he's like, I'm just going to stick with the tropes. But he did add a little weirdness in it where there was a subplot where a very wealthy man, once he dies, he was going to be cryogenically frozen in a ceremony. And they felt that if they could cryogenically freeze this very rich man and possibly have medical students figure out how to reanimate him, they could have a lot of money for the school.
Right.
Yeah, this was about 1985, wasn't it?
87.
87. Wow. Older than I thought.
Oh, no, 1985. You're right. Sorry. I have another one.
Look at my memory. I didn't even do any research.
You're really great.
Yeah, no, I remember seeing this because Parker Stevenson, like Hardy Boys for me, right? I used to see Parker Stevenson and, he was Frank Hardy. So I'm like, yeah, I'll watch it because he's Frank Hardy. Mm-hmm. And I was 15 years old. I didn't know any better. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I remember thinking it was quite funny because I was 15 years old.
Oh, yeah. Some of it doesn't age well. I'm not going to lie. But I mean, it was the 80s. What are you going to do? I think this was partly at the point where Alan had some of his cocaine addiction issues, which tells you a lot.
And I can see that with Appointment with Fear as well. We didn't take that into the factor with all of the mashups.
Boy, Appointment, that's
a cocaine fever dream right there.
I'm thinking there might have been an experimentation with heroin there.
Well, it's LSD-ish at points and mushroom-ish at points.
Okay. So hallucinogens rather than...
It's definitely a hallucinogen movie.
Okay. That makes more sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hanging out with Hunter S? He must have been hanging out with Hunter S.
Oh yeah.
Right,
must be.
I could see that mid-80s.
Yeah. Going on car trips in the
desert.
In the desert. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, obviously thinking at some point during their trips they met the king of the forest.
That does sound like something Thompson would do.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What's your next one?
My next one is Gypsy Angels from 1990 with Vanna White.
Oh, I saw the trailer for this.
It is a sort of semi-drama romance. She is sort of a free spirit who meets another older man who's a very free spirit, and he's a stunt pilot. If you want to watch Vanna White being a stripper, this is the movie for you.
Yeah, I think we all dreamed about that when she was spinning the letters, and I got an A. I'll also take the top.
Right? Yeah, no.
That's okay. I got an E.
I'd like to buy a vowel.
Sam got a capital E.
Capital E.
I got an E. You have to buy a vowel before you get the E.
Yeah, but, right after he got a huge O.
Yeah.
Huge O. And it was free.
Plus he got a car.
Right? Yeah, it's a very odd way that this all came about. But he's a stunt pilot, and they sort of fall in love. They show them falling in love. She kind of gets into planes, and it's a sort of very May-December romance. He's an older man. They eventually get married, but there's a plane crash when he's doing this special plane race, and they think he's dead, but he's managed to eject from the airplane, loses his memory, and spends many months away trying to rehab, and finally recovering his memory only to come back to do the stunt that he was also trying to do, which also killed many people before him. So it's about danger. It's about, what you would give up for your life, and also the trouble of being involved with somebody who's just like an adrenaline junkie, which is what Vanna White is struggling with throughout most of this movie.
Vanna White, extreme sports, X Games.
Exactly. Yeah, some of the craziness that they did. But honestly, there's bits with the planes that are really nicely filmed. It's great. You feel like you're in the biplane with them. It's quite nice. It's well done. Like the cinematography, I'm with.
Yeah, well, by 1990, Alan knows what he's doing.
They've only been doing it for 30 or more years by this point.
Well, 1990, yeah, at least 20.
Yeah.
At least 20.
Yeah, assuming that the 1969 film was his actual first credit, because we've heard rumors that he'd started as early as the mid-50s.
Yeah.
When he was still a teenager, for crying out loud.
Yeah, and that could have been a student film or something.
Maybe.
Or just got his hands on a Super 8 and went to town.
Exactly.
People have released movies on Super 8.
Yep.
So, never know.
That could be it.
Yeah. I mean, the mystery of Alan, we don't know for sure, but we can certainly make conjectures.
Oh, absolutely. And honestly, I think a lot of this knowledge out there of Alan was to obfuscate and keep him safe.
Yeah, and I mean, now, we're celebrating the man, but we don't want you to go looking for him either. He's old. He's in his twilight years now, but he's still active and working hard.
Exactly.
I mean, that's why he takes on all these names while he's on set, so you don't know he's Alan.
Right.
And then the movie comes out, and it's like, yeah, no, this was really Alan who did this movie. Surprise.
Mm-hmm. He's a surprise that keeps on coming. And so for my final movie was The Shrimp on the Barbie from 1990.
I have seen this because Cheech Marin.
Yeah, Cheech Marin, Emma Samms, and Vernon Wells from Commando, who in this movie, Vernon Wells did Commando many years before, but in this movie looks 10 years younger than he did in Commando.
Well, the mesh shirt ages you by 20 years.
Exactly. And Emma Samms watching this movie, I kind of love her. She's so wonderful.
She was all over that era. I haven't seen her in a long, long time in anything. But back then, she was in everything.
Absolutely. She's in an amazing Tales from the Crypt episode, just as an aside, leaving it there.
And she's gorgeous. That accent.
She really is. Well, this is Cheech Marin, who is a man from L.A. who's decided to go to Australia to try his luck because nothing's really working out for him in L.A. He ends up down there, meets Emma Samms and her fiance, played by Vernon Wells, and her father, and kind of messes up the dinner at the Mexican restaurant. But Emma Samms' father forbids her to marry her current fiance. But he says, well, anybody but him, even the next guy, I'll let you marry them. So she decides to take him up on that offer. And so she asks Cheech Marin to pretend to be her new fiancé, Carlos, and act as terrible as possible so that her father will eventually relent so she can marry the man she truly wants to marry. But over the course of this is a romance. She sees those notes of kindness and joy, and she gets to kind of fall in love with him a little bit, which you kind of do as well while you're watching this movie.
Nice. Sounds like you really enjoyed this one.
It's pretty good. And I have a key to all of Alan Smithee's films that I figured out while watching this movie, which I will, when we get into the lore of Alan Smithee, tell you why.
When the violent...
This filthy creep's gonna make us rich.
...can't be controlled. When the guilty can't be caught. When the lawless can't be stopped.
Drop the gun!
The only hope left.
I saw a symbol in the dirt.
You see the symbol of anti-justice.
Is a cop.
I survey.
Who's ready to raise a little hell.
I need your very special kind of darkness.
From From the darkest powers of creation.
Want to know about resurrection?
Comes a force more powerful than light. More lasting than death.
Nurse!
He has returned.
Who's in there?
As judge, jury, and executioner.
Oh my God.
I know what I saw.
To enforce the law.
Where is he?
You'll find him.
With a vengeance. But now, the only way to end the massacre is to destroy
Two tortured souls.
the madness. Finish it. Badge of silence. The Maniac Cop is back.
Now we're into my 5, and I got into a bit of a rhythm, not going to lie. If I could have done all Alan horror movies, I would have. I think maybe there's a little bit of leftover here from 31 Days of Horror still. But it happened to be where the first one I chose was Maniac Cop 3, Badge of Silence.
Nice.
From 1992. And I had watched the first one through The Last Drive-In with
Joe Bob.
And then on my own, I watched the second one. And I had yet to see this one. So I'm like, perfect. Let's start with a movie I haven't seen. And this is apparently directed by William Lustig. The lore of the story of this is he had written a script with a black lead in mind, and then the producers went, no. And he had to cut all these scenes because it wouldn't allow for rewrite time, and Larry Cohen don't work for free.
Right.
So they weren't going to give him any more money either. So they had to go with what they had and cut. Since his final cut was like 50 minutes. In comes Alan to rescue the movie, bring it up to a solid hour and a half or 85 minutes. Mm-hmm. And that's how we got Maniac Cop 3, Badge of Silence, starring Robert Davi, Robert Z'Dar, of course, with the big jaw.
Nice.
Coming back as the titular cop, Matt Cardell.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Back from the dead, raised from the dead by a voodoo priest to do his bidding.
So this is Zombie Maniac Cop.
Yeah. There's a lot of like recognizable faces in here too, doing brief cameos. Like Jackie Earle Haley's in this.
Really?
Yeah. And I didn't write down all the cameos, but then it's like, oh my God, I would have been here all day, like marking down the famous names that were popping up in this thing. I was quite surprised he got all these people. IMDb write-up is a priest practicing the voodoo arts resurrects Matt Cardell, who takes his badge and comes back from the dead to do his bidding, the voodoo priest. And it's kind of about media faking police brutality and very much seemed like a commentary on Rodney King in that era. 1992 would have been about right. And the media was misrepresenting the police officers by editing footage that they had filmed to make them look bad, make it look like they had killed not just the perp, but the victim as well, which wasn't really the reality, at least in the film. Mm-hmm. And it does make you question the things you see in media. And that certainly plays really well today, considering how much media that is out there.
Yeah, Alan in many ways was ahead of his time where he'd do commentary. And that's the thing about horrors. Most horrors do commentary well before anybody else is cottoning onto it.
Yeah. And you know what? I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. I mean, it doesn't rate very high, but it was, 5 out of 10 on IMDb. I'm like, yeah, that's good enough for a horror movie for me.
Right.
That's good enough for a horror movie, yep.
Rotten Tomatoes, most of these Alan Smithee movies don't have critic scores, but the audiences only gave it a 15%. And I don't know. I mean, it's definitely not the best of the franchise, but I quite liked it. I enjoyed myself. It also breaks the rule that the first two had. I don't know if it was a rule, but if you've seen the first two Maniac Cops, the lead dies about 45 minutes into or an hour into the movie, which doesn't happen this go round. Spoiler.
Scream before Scream.
Yeah. So, yeah, it was fun to see just a good old slasher film, which led me to another movie I had never seen, but I'd wanted to, because big fan of House and House 2. And there are 2 House 3s This is House 3, the horror show, which was initially meant to be House 3, and producer Cunningham, the Friday the 13th guy, he wanted to do his House 3, and then the studios were like, no, let's start a new franchise and call it the horror show. So it was released some places as House 3 and other places as the horror show. That's why I'm calling it House 3, the horror show.
I believe it's Sean Cunningham.
Sean Cunningham. Thank you, Sean Cunningham. And this came out in 1989, directed by James Isaac and David Blythe, but written by Alan Smithee.
Excellent.
Along with Leslie Boehm. Let's give her some credit too. You know, Alan was more of a director than a writer, but...
Yeah. Well, he did some punch up here and there. He's just not credited with it.
Yeah, this stars Lance Henriksen, Brian James, Rita Taggart, Dee Dee Pfeiffer, and Aaron Eisenberg.
Another quite the cast.
Yeah, there's another good cast. And the write-up here is Detective McCarthy finally catches Meat Cleaver Max, a serial killer, played by Brian James, who promises revenge during his execution. Nonetheless, a parapsychologist tells the detective that the only hope of stopping Max for good is to destroy his spirit. This was basically Shocker.
I was just thinking the exact same thing. Like, as you were describing, I'm like, this is Shocker.
Yeah.
It kind of is, but they don't play up on the electrical jumping bits. But that's essentially, he got fried in the electric chair, and he jumps out, and then he starts using people's bodies and taunting him through the phone and kind of setting him up for other murders that he's been doing.
Ooh.
Yeah, he's really trying to make Henriksen's life miserable and make him the murderer throughout this film. I mean, Shocker does it better.
Yeah.
But I think this got there first, actually. I think Shocker was 1990, 91.
Yeah, somewhere in there.
Maybe it was a stealth remake.
I don't know. Yeah.
It sounds really similar.
They're very similar, and maybe this is just some weird subgenre I'm just starting to discover now.
Maybe.
Because I love Shocker, but I mean, how many? There must be a few more of these.
There's that Denzel Washington one as well. Is it Fallen?
Fallen, I think, because there's the Rolling Stones song that he whistles, I guess, whenever you know he's in somebody else.
Yeah, and there's also that Friday the 13th film where he does the body jumps.
Yeah, yeah.
And so it is a bit of a subgenre.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's others.
Yeah, it was strange, but the similarities were uncanny. Brian James says this was the most fun he ever had on a film. It's not my favorite of his roles. That might be Tango and Cash.
Which also had Robert Z'Dar in it.
Yes, it did.
You broke that jaw?
That's right.
You broke my jaw.
Lance Henriksen, I'm there. Thank you.
What I think would be hilarious is because it is Lance Henriksen, he's played a bad guy so often. Imagine being set up for murder and it's like, look, I know I look like Lance Henriksen and it seems like I should be the person. Yeah,
I think my big complaint here, and it couldn't have been Alan, but the writing on this movie, some of the dialogue in this movie is just eye-rolling. It's shot fairly well, but the dialogue is just, oh my God. Poor Lance, you can see him going, I have to deliver that line? Okay.
Do my best.
Give it the old college try.
Yeah, not the only movie on my list that's like that. My third movie was Hellraiser Bloodline, as we talked about it. Cenobites in space, and this legacy of Le Marchand through different time frames into like the 22nd century or something like that.
With the space puzzle box.
Yeah.
Yes.
Remember, Hellraiser did it first. Pinhead in space.
Yeah.
But Jason X rocks.
That started your horror franchises in space, but Pinhead in space, Leprechaun went to space, Jason went to space. There's quite a few. I mean, most recently we had Amityville in space, so it hasn't stopped.
It hasn't stopped.
I mean, maybe it should. Amity in space.
To be fair, the one that makes the most sense kind of would be Amityville in space, because you could use the Mir space station as a stand-in for the house.
Yeah, you can watch that and let me know how that goes, because I don't want to find out.
Yeah, I'm with Jay on this one.
That one was, I don't think so. We'll put that up there with Sky Sharks for you.
Okay. Well, yeah, I've thrown myself on a grenade before. I can do it again.
You have. My fourth movie was arguably the first movie to be released, which was Death of a Gunfighter from 1969. But, as I mentioned, there was a Burt Reynolds movie called Fade-In, which actually was filmed in 1968, but wasn't released until 73. Probably because of the success of Death of a Gunfighter.
Yeah, probably one of his best received films.
Yes. This started out of the gate doing very, very well. Shame on Don Siegel and Robert Totten for trying to take credit for this. But thankfully, they didn't. Alan got the full credit for this movie as well. He should. This is based on the novel by Lewis B. Patton, and writer Joseph Calvelli did the screenplay, starring Richard Widmark, Lena Horne, Carol O'Connor, and John Saxon.
Oh, wow.
As well. A Texas town's council fires the town's old-fashioned marshal, or at least they are trying to, who refuses to resign, thus leading to violence from both sides. And, initially, dialogue's pretty good. Initially, I was a little bored with this at the start. It's a little slow. I think it's a little too bright, a little too polished. But I guess if your first film, you're going out to impress. And I kind of like a gritty Western. Mm-hmm. So I was like, this isn't quite what I was hoping for. But boy, does it start picking up as, they go to him, asking him to step down, as the town has kind of progressed past this old West feel. Like they want to move on, and his kind of violence is distasteful to them. Not that it stops them from doing it.
Hypocrisy.
He's also the sheriff who's been there so long, he knows everybody's secrets too. And I think some of them want to wipe those secrets out.
Who plays the sheriff?
Richard Widmark.
Yeah. And initially they ask him to step down. He says no. Then they bring in a sheriff from the region who knows Widmark's character, asks him, and he gets slugged in the face for it. But he's also a man of the law. He overhears the town going, well, what else are we going to do? We're going to have to kill him. So he actually does try to warn him, say, come with me when I leave town.
Yeah, the law is the law to these men.
Yeah, and it ends a very okay corral, setting him up on his wedding day, no less.
High noon.
Yeah, it gets very high noon. A little bloodier than I was expecting, but boy, when it gets going, it's really good.
Nice. Well, it's right in the heyday of the spaghetti westerns, right near the end of it, actually, I think, in 1969. So it was probably hit just at the right time. I don't think if it had come out any later, it probably wouldn't have landed as well as it did.
Yeah, and I think Fade-In was another Western, at least with Western themes. I think they were filming a Western. It's about a film company filming a Western with Burt Reynolds. So Alan doing a couple of Westerns, but that's definitely how you get started in the 60s.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he probably grew up being a fan of Westerns, being a 50s kid.
Absolutely. 40s and 50s.
Yeah, I mean, huge. That was the genre for a good 20 years.
Exactly. Trying to find something that wasn't there in the Old West.
Yeah, and then I finished off with Solar Crisis from 1990. Apparently, Richard Serafian was trying to take credit for it, but thankfully Alan Smithee got the full credit here, based on a Japanese novel by Takeshi Kawada. And this was actually filmed for the Japanese. And unfortunately, it didn't do very well, and they had to shoot new scenes and re-edit it for an American audience. It stars Tim Matheson, Charlton Heston, Peter Boyle, Annabelle Schofield, Jack Palance, and Dorian Harewood.
What a cast!
I kind of wanted to watch this one too, because that cast was like, yeah, I would watch this, but yeah, just time was not cooperating this week.
Yeah, it's quite a good cast. The dialogue in this movie is sometimes freaking hilarious because it's so bad. But it's beautifully shot. You can tell they spent some money. This thing was $55 million.
Wow.
They spent some money on this. I mean, it still looks of its era, of course, but there's like early CGI in this. There's some really intricate sets. It's about this astronaut expedition to the sun because the solar flares have gotten so out of control. They've really done a number on Earth. It's not quite apocalyptic, but they're trying to stop that because they're predicting a solar flare that can take out the Earth entirely. And they're flying out to the sun in the predicted area where the flare is going to take place. And it's a bit of a suicide run, at least for one pilot.
Mm-hmm.
So they have this bomb that's going to go off and kind of redirect it somehow with some weird pseudoscience. And thankfully we know how the bomb feels about it because it talks. And it really wants to be recognized by its peers on the mission. It's a bit weird.
Anthropomorphizing inanimate objects. But honestly, it sounds a lot like Sunshine with Cillian Murphy.
Yeah,
well.
I wish I would have been watching Sunshine because I really wanted to watch that movie.
And Moon and Space Odyssey. Like, there's lots of them where they have the talking objects.
Yeah, so you have this crew who's going to go out. The captain of this crew that's going out, his father is Charlton Heston, a general, and his son has left his military prep school to try to go say goodbye to his father, but he kind of loses his way and asks help to get there to say goodbye to his father before he takes off on this mission that he may not come back from. And this crazy old man, Jack Palance, helps him along the way. Why he's there, I don't know. Why he leaves, I still don't know. But Jack is amazing in this. He hams it up and has a good old time, and he's really fun to watch. Peter Boyle plays the evil corporation head, not believing in the science, and he's basically told his men to do whatever they can to sabotage this mission. It's a money issue, I guess. I don't know. Wouldn't you just shut it down? Just tell them not to go?
Well, not just that. It makes me think, well, the whole point of the mission is to stop the solar flare. If you're that worried about money goes away when the Earth goes away.
And he's got a scientist saying, my math was wrong. It's coming even sooner than we think.
Oh.
And then there's another scientist in the room. What if you were wrong? And then, okay. Well, I'd rather be wrong, but I'm not. And the argument,
can you afford for me to be wrong?
Yeah,
right. I could be wrong.
I wish the argument, it should have been really dramatic and thrilling. Yeah. It's awful and hilarious, and this is a fun movie to watch because the dialogue is so bad.
Does it devolve into I know what you are, what am I?
We get close. We get close. So we have this weird subplot of the kid trying to get to the mission, which is long taken off. So I don't know why.
So he's failed.
But he starts discovering the cover-up because he runs into the men who have done the sabotage, and they realize he knows more than he should. Yeah, there's all these little subplots of action movies being mashed together and better science fiction movies being mashed together. Yeah. And this is kind of like yours, where there's a lot of things, I think, mashed together in this script that they wanted to do, and none of it really makes a whole lot of sense as to why they're still doing it.
Yeah, I think sometimes when he goes into a certain genre, the first one out, he's like, I don't know if I'll ever get another chance, so I best put all my best ideas forward.
Yeah, then they had Annabelle Schofield. They did this Manchurian Candidate thing with her. So
because it needed that.
Because they needed somebody to do the sabotaging.
Yeah.
Okay.
But, she battles through this programming that she doesn't know she has. And these feelings she does, like, why did you do that? I don't know.
Well, what does the bomb have to say about that? Is the bomb asking her why?
They are kind of buddy-buddy.
Okay.
Because they both have feelings.
They do.
Yeah. The bomb is quite sensitive.
Oh. Well, to be fair, I mean, a bomb would be the most sensitive item.
Yeah. It often needs encouragement and telling him, you're doing a very good job. Freddy, the bomb.
Freddy the bomb. Kind of like Marvin from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Yeah.
Nice. Or my Roomba, Freddy.
I mean, he's not depressed or anything. He needs that, or you could see he might tip over in depression. And the last thing you want to have
is a depressed bomb.
A depressed bomb that might go off too soon.
Well, I mean, you get a suicidal bomb. What are you going to do?
Right? Especially one that's supposed to go off in the sun.
Right?
It's probably going to take out the Earth if it gets depressed. So you want to keep that bomb happy.
People are terrible. Like, if I were a bomb, sometimes they'd be like, you know what? Earth's done. Let's just start over again.
Yeah. There are times where Freddy's like, you and I are very similar. No, No, we're not, Freddie. Not at all. that is actually a pretty funny line in the movie. No, we're not. Thanks for playing, Freddie. But yeah, Solar Crisis, last movie I watched, but certainly not the last on Alan's list.
Yeah, I for some reason thought he'd done Supernova, but I think I was wrong about that one.
Yeah, I was actually looking for, because that's the one I thought that was.
That one has James Spader in it and Angela Bassett, and I've seen that one, and I enjoyed it quite a bit.
This Gunfighter was the law for 20 years, until a hate-ridden town took the law into its own hands and turned on the Gunfighter. Richard Widmark, rebel with a badge in Death of a Gunfighter.
We don't have any law in this jerkwater town. He's the law. Come get me, Frank.
This Gunfighter lived by the law of the gun. Now the town plotted to use it against him.
Hey, Jake, Mr. Austin, he's out gunning for the marshal.
Lena Horne, the only woman in town with the courage to support him.
I want to marry you.
After all these years, why are you just asking me today?
I tried my damnedest not to kill him.
Does it matter?
It matters that you believe me.
Isn't it more important that they believe you?
I don't care what they believe.
This Gunfighter throws a penetrating spotlight on the behavior of an entire town in the manner of High Noon and reveals the hidden motives that make one man the town's target.
Frank patches your conscience and you fellas are afraid.
We want him out right now.
I'm asking you to resign before they kill you. Get the hell out of here, Lou.
Resign, you idiot!
Stay up there.
Yeah, no, other stuff in his, well, we talked about the Burt Reynolds one a little bit, even though we didn't watch it, fade in. It's 1978 was The Barking Dog, 1980 City and Fear and Fun and Games. 1981, McLean's Law. He did an episode of that. He did quite a bit of TV, like Paper Dolls, The Cosby Show, a couple episodes of Dalton's Code of Vengeance.
Paper Dolls. That brings me back.
Mm-hmm. Yep. He did a movie called Moonlight, and then they remade it and got an Oscar.
I don't know if it's a remake. I think they just use the same name.
I think it's just, similar names. Mm-hmm. Stitches of 1985, as you were talking about. He did a MacGyver episode.
Yeah, there are a couple of TV shows on there that I'm like, oh yeah, I didn't know he did an episode for that.
Yeah. There's a movie called Let's Get Harry.
Which is quite good.
And I have seen that one. That was also on my list, but I'm like, you know what? I've seen it before, so.
Morgan Stewart's Coming Home. That's 1987. Riviera was 1987. Ghost Fever was he did like 5 movies in 1987. Or 4 movies in a television episode. Ghost Fever, I've seen that one. I've seen it once with my brother when I was young, and we both said, let's not do that again.
I vaguely remember it as well. I know I've seen it, and I'm like, but I don't remember it at all.
Yeah. I remember little bits of it. I did rewatch the trailer and go, I remember this. I wish I didn't. I almost watched Catch Fire because I hear that's really good. 1990. Because that's Jodie Foster and
Dennis Hopper.
Dennis Hopper, I think, was supposed to be the director, but thankfully Alan came in there.
Yeah.
And helped out.
Well, I mean, Dennis Hopper kind of realized that, he can do some things, but not all the things.
Or he can direct, but sometimes when you get the studio interfering, you need somebody like Alan to come in and say, no, he's right.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do it that way.
Yeah, 1990 was busy for him too, because that was when he did Solar Crisis, Gypsy's Angels, Shrimp on the Barbie, and Fatal Charm. Yeah. Lots of stuff. 91, he did The Owl and Blood-Sucking Pharaohs in Pittsburgh.
Nice.
92, Bay City Story, Maniac Cop, and Call of the Wild in 93, one of the many versions of Call of the Wild. So maybe one day we'll do Call of the Wild.
Yeah. Only when we have lots of time. How many of those are there?
Yeah, it's going to be it'll be something similar like this. Watch what.
Or the Scrooged episode,
Yeah, like Scrooged. 94, While Justice Sleeps. And, oh man, I tried to find it. I couldn't because I was in a horror mood. And the audacity. Only Alan Smithee would have the audacity to do a sequel to an Alfred Hitchcock.
Mm.
The Birds 2, Land's End.
Yeah.
Because, birds require a lot of land.
Well, they do need to land from time to time. They don't spend all the time in the air.
It depends on which kind of bird. There are birds that live in the interior. There are birds that live in the exterior.
Well,
there are birds everywhere.
If it was Land's End, maybe these birds were like ostriches and emus.
Or Canadian geese, or hissing cobra birds.
Or like ground birds, like turkeys.
Oh,
chickens.
yeah. Can you imagine the birds with ostriches and emus? That would be amazing.
Right? 95 brought us Smoke and Lightning. Not Lightning. Lightning. And Raging Angels. 96 was Hellraiser Bloodline and Exit. 97, Dilemma, Firehouse, River Made to Drown In, Sub Down. And he even did a French movie. I'm not going to try to read the name of it, but I think it's Le Zombie de Cap Rouge.
Cap Rouge? Le Zombie de Cap Rouge?
Yeah. What, Red Zombies? I don't know.
Maybe.
98, the biopic that kind of...
Yeah.
You'd think it would slow down his career, but didn't. But that was an Alan Smithee film, Burn, Hollywood, Burn. 1999, we had Soul's Arc, Woman Wanted, and The Disciples. And after 99, he took a couple years off, 2-3 years off, and then In the Wrong Hands in 2002, and Enraged New World in 2002, 2004, Team Spirit. He started, productions by 2000s were getting longer, a little more complicated, and, you take breaks. He's old.
And he's getting older.
Yeah, by this point, he's in his 60s, right? 2005, Fugitives Run. 2008, Windberg, Ohio. Tom Toll on the Scrap Heap. And 2010, Another Night of the Living Dead in 2011.
Yeah, and actually there's...
I almost watched that one too.
One from 2023 that I was looking for, but couldn't get to.
Yeah, where we have that? Anatar, yeah, there it is. 2014, he did 2, Ego Death, and another French film, because...
He can.
Multilingual. We didn't know that about Alan, but he is. 2016, Kiss of Death. 2017, Hot Lead or Hot Lead. I don't know. I haven't seen the movie. I'm going to say Hot Lead. It makes more sense.
It makes more sense.
Yeah.
It makes more sense. 2018, Sex and Water.
Okay.
I've done that.
Sex and or in?
In water.
Oh, okay.
So, but it is and.
That's actually part of Shrimp
water.
on the Barbie.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, it's got a theme there.
Yeah, and going through this list is causing me anxiety, which he did in 2019.
Well done.
Thank you. Thank you very much. 2020 was the end of the rope, but not the end of Alan Smithee, because there is a Spanish film, Normalizando lo Normal, 2022, and still upcoming. I guess it probably hasn't seen a release yet, Anatar, and there's also Once Upon a New York Dream coming up, and Cinema Insomnia. There's 4 episodes of that show he did that are also yet to be released.
Yeah, so Spanish, French, and I believe he's worked in Japan as well for some TV and
yeah, and I didn't even go through his acting credits, his writing credits, his editing credits.
It's too much.
Yeah.
He's that guy. You know how sometimes we have people when we're doing an episode and Sam's like, it's the fuck it list where they've done so much. Yeah. And Sam's like, I'm not doing this.
Yeah. He just taps out. He's like, 300 credits, fuck it.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
So you don't say fuck it like I do.
No, I don't. It's your line.
Yes.
Fuck
it. Fuck it. Just fuck it. You sound like me as a kid. Fuck it.
But, that's our profile. And it's nice to be able, because we've often will profile directors who have passed away. And I'm glad we finally got to talk about this fictional, real person, totally real person.
Totally real.
Yes, yes.
Totally real person on this illustrious week of April, this first week of April. If I could have released this on April 1st, I would have.
Yes, but then people would think it was a prank.
They would think it was a prank, so I definitely didn't.
And they definitely wouldn't take us seriously.
No, and I don't want you to think this is a prank.
Because we were serious about our discussion about Alan.
Exactly.
Yeah. These are films that aren't always the best. We've been honest about that. But, you don't trivialize a man who's worked this hard on so many movies.
In certain respects, though, I was thinking about this, and I keep wondering what on earth would have happened with these movies if he hadn't stepped in. Like, how badly had they gotten before he got there?
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. I haven't seen everything in there. They may have been worse. I mean, every director has their moments where it's just things aren't working.
I know. And sometimes you're knee deep in it and you can't get out, but you got to try.
Yeah.
Sometimes the studios just screw you up.
Yeah. He's worked really hard, worked in a system that doesn't always work with him, and persevered.
Yes.
You know, that's a triumphant story.
Yeah.
And it's a story still being written.
For many years.
Yeah, for many years. Possibly by people like us.
And honestly, I think Anatar, there's 2 credits. One is Alan Smithee, and another's Alan Smithee 3. So I think he's got his family involved.
Yeah, you know, and I've come across some Alan Smithee Jr. films
and an Alana
as well.
Smithee, I believe that might be his daughter.
Smithee. So he's definitely brought the family into the fold. And he's got some compatriots as well that are out there. But Alan is certainly the most famous. He's a genre unto himself.
A genre unto himself. Yes, that's a good way of putting it.
So let's all tip a hat, tip a beer in honor of the man, Alan Smithee.
Moment of silence.
No, he's not dead.
Oh, right, yeah.
Thank you for everything you've given us, Alan.
Yeah, no, we're cheersing his life. He's fine.
Not a moment of silence yet. Sorry, we were still so heartfelt that I fell into that trap.
Well, I mean, I got a little concerned there because, I mean, you know, in the early...
He's getting up there.
Yeah, in the 2010s, I mean, you heard about the heart attack.
Yeah.
But he bounced back from that as well. I mean, we could probably blame the heavy drug use in the 80s that went towards that.
Yeah, and honestly, that's what his family sort of had said, but they were very proud that he got through it, and he's started to take better care of himself. Because
Well, I heard that him and Clint Eastwood are working out together.
Yeah.
They're trying to sort of get that octogenarian, whatever.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Somebody who's almost 100 years old does for a fitness regime. But I mean, Clint's still pretty vital for a man his age. And I know they're buddies. So
yeah, I mean, both love cowboys. I mean, Alan is a rancher, mostly a jolly one, but but the best of jolly ranchers, possibly Cherry.
Yeah. And I mean, if he's getting in good enough shape, it just makes me wonder when they're going to both be in the Expendables, because that seems to be where you put the old
I might
action
actually
stars.
go see that one in the theater.
Yeah.
But we already know Alan is not expendable.
No, he's not. That's why he survived. They always survive the movies, even though they're Expendables.
Yeah.
So it's like the new young kids that die.
Yeah.
The old dudes live.
I fear to think of what the film industry would be like without him.
Exactly.
I mean, Fast and the Furious movies owe a lot to that man.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, the amount of wild ideas. That started with Alan.
Oh, I mean, come on. The last one, they went to frickin' space. Do you think they would have even had the balls?
Right?
Would they have had the balls?
If Alan hadn't got there first.
Yeah.
Right?
He showed them that this can work. This might sound ridiculous on paper.
Absolutely.
A talking bomb? Ridiculous on paper.
It was ridiculous on film, admit it.
It was
yeah, but
pretty
you know,
entertaining, actually.
Yeah. I kind of, now that you've mentioned the talking bomb, I sort of desperately want to see that film now.
Oh, the dialogue. Oh my God. The dialogue was so weird.
Well, I mean, from what you're saying, as it was made for the Japanese, it was probably made and written for the Japanese, so it's probably translated from English to Japanese back to English.
There's a possibility because there's a lot of exposition, but not done well.
Yeah. See, that totally sounds like that Jimmy Fallon thing where you translate it into another language and translate it back to English.
And it's amazing.
It is amazing.
Yeah, I sometimes do that for fun.
It wasn't that good.
Take things and do it that way. Yeah. But you know what? He has been very meta for a very long time. So probably also in his mind, he's thinking, let's translate it like directly. Let's maybe get some AI in on this. Mm-hmm. Some initial AI. This is the infancy of it. He would have probably wanted to try it.
Possibly. He is a pioneer, but at the same time, as an artist, I don't know if he'd want AI
he'd clean it up.
I don't know if he'd want AI to kind of come in and take over other people's jobs. I don't know if Alan's the guy he's old school in that regard, but maybe his kids.
Maybe, yeah.
It might be something the kids would do.
True.
They're like, we don't need James Cameron. We just have a computer.
Exactly. Well, I mean, Anatar, I'm curious about that one.
Yeah, I have a computer and Blender.
Yeah,
that's right.
Hey, Blender's a great open source, guys. Just saying.
We know.
Hey, been doing some 3D printing. Blender comes in handy.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. All right. Well, that has been our director profile on Alan Smithee.
Well, I believe Alan Smithee, we don't have a date. He was born in August 1945, just after the war, in Columbus, Ohio.
Columbus, okay.
Yes. His father was a miner. His mother was a fashion editor.
Okay.
Both unfortunate careers to have in Columbus.
Why?
There's not many mines or fashion magazines in Columbus, Ohio.
Oh, okay.
But you know what? They were people that believed in dreams, and they supported Alan's.
Yeah, I know they were also farmers, but yeah, their choice in trying to do rice.
It was a poor decision. But you know what? This is why Alan is such a great filmmaker, because he came from dreamers.
Yes. What I did find out, though, is they were also one of the first cannabis farmers.
Which explains an awful lot as well.
Yeah. And what happened was, how they got into that was his uncle Augustus.
Yes, Augustus.
Augustus was an archivist, a film archivist. And what he would do is he'd take kind of stock footage and cuts out of films and kind of bring them to young Alan. And
totally a real person, by the way.
Yes, exactly. To young
Totally
Alan.
real.
And when he did that, he was sort of talking to his parents going, if you give me cannabis, I'll bring it back to like Hollywood, where I can, unload this and give you guys money. So like to maybe pay for Alan's film school. But what happened with the stock footage is his parents decided, you know what, Alan, take this film and put it together and make a movie out of it.
There's the 50s credit.
Yeah.
There it is.
And he
I knew
also
you'd find it.
Because now all this film would fit into one film canister.
Yeah.
He would actually use the empty film canisters to ship out
Yes.
More cannabis.
That's exactly what happened.
To Hollywood elite.
So this also, because of his uncle Augustus, that's also gave him a leg up when he first got to Hollywood.
Which is great because he only had one leg.
And a vestigial tail.
Oh, yeah. That was weird.
Yeah.
Well, there was a reason they called him Goat Boy.
Well, that didn't
When he was a
stop him
kid.
from being somewhat of a ladies' man when he got out there.
Well, no, because it's a pretty prehensile vestigial tail.
Oh, yeah, there was stuff going on.
Yeah.
As noted by his first wife, Aurora. It was an exploratory tale, is essentially what she would say.
Yes.
But this gets into some of the stuff, and this might be lore, but this also might be because he was talking about this. Alan Smithee is what he's always put in his bio. He's managed to curve anything that would be his original name, because Aurora was actually Aurora Polievre, and she was a mistress to one of the mobsters out there who was like involved in Hollywood. And because he stole her away, people were pretty mad.
Right.
So she encouraged him to change his name.
Yes.
To keep him safe.
And I know that a relationship it failed because of the hitman, but he would marry like 3 more times.
Oh, absolutely. There was Aurora. Then there was Vivienne. Vivienne was sort of an ingenue at the time, but she was not very good. Her voice really didn't work with film. It was sort of where she fell down. She was extraordinarily beautiful, but she was also talented. But she had the voice of... Wow.
Also a first cousin.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was a little controversial at the time.
It was controversial at the time. Oh, it was extremely controversial.
Yeah.
I mean, Jerry Lee Lewis did do it first.
His 13-year-old cousin. But at least Vivienne was of age.
Yeah.
She was 22 when they got married.
Yeah.
He was a little older, but...
Well, and I kind of got the impression from what I read that he was like helping her out because he knew she was never going to have a film career. So he figured, well, let's give her some stability and I'll marry her kind of thing. It was one of those marriages of convenience.
Well, I mean, they are from Ohio. There is a little bit of a laziness is like to what's okay, what's not okay.
Yeah. I mean, we don't hear much about their son, Dogboy Smithee.
Oh, no, that's Dagbert.
Dagbert. I'm sorry. That came out wrong.
Oh, yes. No, yeah, poor Dagbert. And that was actually the nickname that stuck with the poor kid, which is why he now lives...
I didn't mean to use the terrible nickname. That was awfully insensitive of me.
He lives off the grid in Oregon now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So after Vivienne, there was Louise.
Oh, Louise.
Where are my snowshoes?
Oh, Louise. But you know what? And you know what? This one could have been the one that went the distance, but poor Louise. I mean, if Louise hadn't had gotten the cancer.
Yeah. I mean, he probably shouldn't have had that fling with Elizabeth Taylor while she was getting treatments. That was...
You know what?
Cool.
That really, I feel that quickened the decline.
I think so too. I mean, that...
And honestly, this is when it sort of led into his heavy drinking and drug use. I mean, honestly, there was that death on Twilight Zone, but stack this on top of it where he feels responsible for Louise's death.
Yeah, and then, I mean, Elizabeth Taylor just dumped him like a $3 Coke habit.
Oh, exactly. Well, she was like, I don't think you're the greatest director. She wanted...
Yeah, she wanted...
Well, and she was all about Burton, even when she was with other men, let's face it.
Yeah.
He knew that.
He did.
Yeah,
he knew he could never measure up.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, maybe with the prehensile tail, but...
But even then, I think, and the thing too, it was also destined to fail because they were both terrible alcoholics. I mean, honestly, it was never going to work and it shouldn't have because it would have killed both of them much earlier.
No, but he eventually found his peace and had lots of kids.
Yeah, when he finally met Hildegard, that was when he really felt at home and at peace. And Hildegard was just such a calming influence on him.
Yes. And, that they actually wound up having a Viking funeral for Louise because of Hildegard. That's how they met.
Yes.
Little known fact.
And it was a bit of a scandal because Hildegard and Louise were friends. But, I mean, Hildegard says that on her deathbed, Louise had forgiven her. Yeah. And felt that somebody needed to take care of Alan.
Well, I mean, we know because she put her horn helmet on her casket,
mm-hmm.
and then they floated it out down the river on fire.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because, fire.
Proper Viking funeral, after all.
Well, yeah.
I mean, it was a little awkward when they found out Louise was Jewish, but they should have maybe asked first.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Louise wanted to be remembered, and Hildegard just decided to run with it.
Yeah.
She was somewhat impulsive, but also very stable. She, like Alan, is a complex character.
Yeah. But it is the romance that lasted after so many...
To this day.
Tragedies and failed marriages.
Yeah, to this day.
Yeah.
Where they live with their 10 cats because the kids are out of the house.
Yeah. And I hear Hildegard's really good at grilling beef.
Oh, she is. That's why it's great to be on the farm because they do grow their own beef. That's the other thing. Alan... He's taken a bit of a step back from the directing, and he's really into like organic food.
Yeah, grass-fed. I hear Hildegard has a cooking and butchery show on the Food Network.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's called, though. I don't know.
Butchery with Smithee.
Ah, yeah.
That would do it. Yeah, that would be it.
Mm-hmm.
And I know there's also, he's got a little side hustle, too, Smithee Smoothies.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Well, that was part of it too. You know what? That was when we're talking about him eating more organically to take care of himself after his heart attack.
Mm-hmm.
This sort of just he grew that from then because he didn't want other people to go through what he went through.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow, the sordid history of Alan Smithee, but ends on a high note, still doing very, very well. And we are happy to bring this profile of Alan Smithee to you.
Mm-hmm.
Not as an April Fool's prank at all.
Never. Well, it's just, he's such a wisp. Just always in the air. You never quite grab a hold of him.
Yeah, you can kind of smell Smithee, but you'll never see Smithee.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you have a director you'd like us to do a profile on, I mean, they're never going to measure up to Alan, but we'd be happy to profile another director's career. Let us know on our social media at Invasion Remake on Twitter, Invasion of the Remake on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And of course, you can email us your suggestions, your corrections, and your comments to invasionoftheRemake@gmail.com. Also, don't forget to visit our website,
invasionoftheremake.wixsite.com/podcast.
And over there, you'll find a handy dandy little button. And what happens when you press a big old button?
It takes you to a store.
Yeah, it'll take you to our TeePublic Store. We'll have lots of cool merch for you. T-shirts, mugs, posters, PPE, masks, totes, magnets, pillows, stickers. So much stuff. And we've got well over 70 designs to choose from. So go check it out. You'll find something you like. Maybe there'll be an Alan Smithee something there.
Mm-hmm.
You too just like I am Spartacus, you too can be Alan Smithee.
Yes.
Make sure you tell your friends about the show and give us a 5-star rating and a short review to tell others about the show because it'll help get some more
earballs
on the show. All right. Next week, we'll get back to the episode that I had you make a prediction on. Make sure you tell Sam over on Twitter what you think your thoughts are, and maybe we'll tell you if you're right or not.
Did anybody get it this far?
No, I haven't heard anything yet so far. So
yeah. Those are half-decent hints, I think. I'm not going to make it too easy for you.
Oh, no.
It's rare when I know what I'm going to do in advance, but if I do, maybe we'll start dropping those hints more, after 7 years of this. Hey, wait a minute, can you tell us?
Yeah.
It's fun when you don't tell me before we start recording, and then you drop the hints, and you ask me if I know, and I'm like, yeah, it's this.
Yeah, I'll drop the hints in the episode, and she still might not get it.
I did get it once. You did it, and I knew it right away.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. You've caught it a few times. All right. Well, thanks for joining us for this special profile on Alan Smithee. We will be back to our regular scheduled program next week. Until then, I've been Jason.
I'm always Sam.
And I continue to be Trish.
And we are out of here.
A consortium of scientists headed by Dr. Griffin and Dr. Pei have determined that Starfire is certain. A megaflare explosion will vaporize the Earth's atmosphere and destroy all life. I told them they were mistaken. That fact is, they are not mistaken. I discovered that my staff and I have miscalculated. The Starfire theory is correct. It is imperative that we support the Helios expedition. It is possible that this antimatter device, a bomb, could divert the megaflare away from Earth and into space. A large solar flare will take place within 48 hours.
Dr. Haas, are you absolutely convinced that this catastrophe will happen?
There seems to be no question.
Dr. Haas, doesn't it appear the Sunspot group is merging? If you look at the Fraunhofer lines, you'd notice that...
Is that your expert conclusion?
Well, I don't call myself an expert, but I do have
That's right,
eyes.
Dr. Beeson. You are not an expert. Dr. Beeson here doesn't agree with my calculation. She, along with a diminishing minority of scientists. They are wrong, and I am right.
And what if you're wrong, Dr. Haas?
Well, IXL invest in the future, an optimistic future. And I refuse to believe that a megaflare, or even God himself for that matter, is going to end it. That's not the way I see it. I see it in terms of the status quo.
Yes, sir, I believe the board sees it exactly that way.
Thank you, gentlemen. Dr. Haas, sorry I have to run. They keep me on a very tight schedule. Call me if there are any new developments.